على عهدي على ديني على أرض تلاقيني أنا لأهلي أنا فديهم أنا دمي فلسطيني 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 أنا دمي فلسطيني
Good afternoon, Brooklyn College students. Welcome back. This week's episode of DNA Entertainment News is a special but necessary one. Usually I tell you all that I'm here to bring you entertainment news from near and far, but today that is not the case. As journalists, even student ones, we have a responsibility to report what goes on in the world. This week, I felt it necessary to host a different kind of conversation. My team and a few members of the Vanguard are going to analyze and evaluate the way global media is covering the conflict between Palestine and Israel. My name is Alex, and today I have here with me Serene and Kate, editors of our beloved school newspaper, as well as my colleagues Manny, Kaylin, and Miad.
Thank you for having us.
Hi,
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Say hi, Manny.
Oh. Hello. I don't like this one.
Okay. So I am gonna really leave this entire conversation up to Serene and Kate because this is their area more so than mine. Kate, do you want to start off with anything specific or Serene?
Do you want to talk about the campuses, kind of the way that they went about it before we kind of go to more of a broad?
Yeah, I think that would be a good place to start.
Okay.
So when was the first rally? The 12th, October 12th?
Yeah.
Yeah, October 12th. And that was pretty crazy to cover. That was definitely a first. I've been to so many protests before, and that's really how I got my start doing media, was by going to protests. But this was something that was just next level, to have just both sides there, and so it was just insane to even see that with a college campus. And then, of course, what happened later with Councilwoman Vernikov was just even scarier to imagine, because I've never, even as we're students, and part of the media, you never think you're gonna actually be in danger. And so for that to have potentially happened was just insane. And I think since then, the college has been going sort of back and forth on how to handle this, and the debate of should she step down and stuff like that. It's been really tricky to cover. It's been really tricky, and to try to discern between what is false information about this councilwoman and what is legit.
And just quickly to mention, the she in question who should step down is not just Councilwoman Vernikov, but President Michelle Anderson, who has not said anything since October 12th about the councilwoman walking around the campus with a gun on her hip.
She did kind of denounce it in the faculty council meeting. She didn't specifically state Vernikov. She says, I denounce anyone that brings a gun to a protest or a rally, but I mean, when we were covering that, she wouldn't specifically name Vernikov, which was kind of a weird, just say her name, just say that this was the councilwoman, Mm-hmm. So it kind of made it a gray area when covering that.
Mm-hmm. And I will just say that Vernikov wasn't on campus ground, so technically Michelle Anderson was kind of making the point that she herself couldn't really do anything because she wasn't on campus grounds. But police officers on the street saw Vernikov. Yeah. So the fact that they didn't do anything right then and there speaks volumes. And the fact that there were helicopters, there were 10 plus police cars, there were barricades, all for a peaceful protest. I think that speaks volumes on not only, the school, because I'm sure they took extra precautions ahead of time, and the chancellor was sending out emails, President Anderson was sending out emails, they knew what was going to happen, and just the police presence, I just feel it was unnecessary. That's my personal opinion, and I just think the way that the Brooklyn College administration, the CUNY administration, have not been going about the situation in the right way, because, the initial emails that were being sent out were basically saying that CUNY does not support Hamas, CUNY does not support these protests because these organizations are supporting Hamas. But these organizations have never once said that they support Hamas. They just want basically a platform, a place where they can feel safe on campus and where they can, fight for what they believe in, freedom of speech. And fighting for people to not get murdered is not the same as saying that they support Hamas. So I just think that President Anderson and the rest of the CUNY administration, they never apologized for that misinformation, because saying something like that is extremely detrimental and scary, because that's kind of putting a target on, SJP, the Student for Justice in Palestine Club's back, by saying, oh, they support Hamas, do not support them. So, that is honestly just the start of the misinformation.
And I would like to add, the NYPD was so hostile to the media. It was ridiculous. I mean, first, I had like a media pass, and of course I'm a student there, but even that, there was so much like restrictions, and they were just basically just doing whatever the hell they wanted. We had to stay behind the barricades. We couldn't even go up to anyone protesting. It was ridiculous. So you could kind of forget about trying to interview anyone. And at one point when I was on the campus, I had someone from the public safety team follow me because they thought I was someone like infiltrating, and I was like, bro, no one could even get onto this campus if it weren't for like 10 officers like stopping you beforehand to do so. And someone else had to step in and tell the guy like, no, she's a student here. So it was just like this hostility that really did not help to like actually report on what was happening. And it was just really ridiculous, honestly. And I think since then, at every single SJP protest covering that, there go the barricades, there go like an insane amount of cops there. And it's just, again, my opinion, ridiculous, and really just hindering how we can even begin this coverage in the first place.
Right. Miad, you had something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I feel like the college, she's mad brave. Michelle Anderson is very brave to say, what's it called, that, oh, Vernikov coming on campus with a gun, that was off campus. The whole school gets an email when Chipotle got shot up. Where's Chipotle anywhere on this campus?
That is like 2 blocks away.
Sent out a whole email alert talking about, it's unsafe today. Please exercise caution, use caution. But that lady was like a step away from the gates.
Right.
The only reason I consider that stretch of road on campus is because Midwood, which everyone says is on the Brooklyn College campus, is right next to where she was standing. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to keep saying that was on campus, whether she wants to push it or not.
Mm-hmm. I mean, think about how many
on campus. She had to walk by our gates to get to where she ended up getting in her protected car like a Secret Service agent. Mm-hmm. Like, that's just not fair.
Yeah, and how many students go back and forth between that avenue just to like get to classes? Like, it's pretty wild.
College students, high school students,
right?
Yeah,
the general public.
Yeah,
and we do have a high school on campus, Brooklyn College Academy, that's on the West Quad. Mm-hmm. So you did endanger minors. Like, come on, bro, be for real.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and since then, they've dropped the charges on her because apparently the weapon was inoperable, but reported, like, in the media is that she was able to take the gun first to her home, and then she turned herself into the NYPD with the gun. So it's like, well, I mean, she could have, like, again, my opinion, but she could have just taken it apart then and made it seem inoperable, but it really was.
Right.
Like, it's very suspicious. So,
right.
Yeah.
And I also did want to touch upon, like, another part of the emails that a lot of students are finding problems with. That's why they're having so many protests, is that President Anderson and, the CUNY chancellor, they're only talking about one side. They're saying, we support, the people of Israel. We are with the people of Israel. We are saddened by the news of what's happening over there. We condemn Hamas. But people are dying in Palestine, too, by the thousands, like...
bloodlines are
right
being
now
wiped
over
out.
Exactly. Right now, over 20,000 people have been martyred in Palestine, but those lives don't matter because Michelle Anderson and CUNY chancellor aren't talking about that. So that's one of the main reasons that Palestinians are protesting on these campuses, because they do not feel supported. They do not feel seen. And Michelle Anderson can say, oh, there's counseling on campus if you need it. But you don't even acknowledge the fact that Palestinian students are also hurting. So that's one of the main issues with her emails too. I don't understand why she's been sending out so many emails if she just won't address the actual word Palestine and her Palestinian students. So, yeah.
She just refuses to use the word like Palestinian at all. She just refers it back to like Muslim students.
She won't even say Gaza.
Right.
Yeah, it's.
I'm looking at the email right now, actually.
It's pretty
The
wild.
emails are also like so full of this weird
It's
tone where
jargon.
like
Jargon.
you can literally tell, like, bro, we know where you stand. Like, literally in the construction of the email, she says, Jewish students first. That's the first thing she puts. She puts Jewish students, and then she puts Muslim students. Like, bro, we know where you stand, bro. We know where you stand. And another thing, there were 3 weeks between the Vernikov incident and when she finally decided to respond, and the response wasn't even worth anything, bro. Like, you really could have kept that response. She didn't say anything revolutionary. She didn't denounce Vernikov. She didn't do anything. She didn't say anything. Like, literally, you could have kept it, bro.
And somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but in those 3 weeks, wasn't there a town hall where students went up and asked her, like, why hasn't she said anything? Why won't she do this? Why won't she stick up for Muslim and Palestinian students? And can she step down? Wasn't that the day before her?
Yeah, so
Okay.
that was at the faculty council meeting that was on October 18th, and I attended that so I could cover it. And that was a pretty wild moment because you had these 19 clubs and their representatives go up to, like, you know, call for her resignation. And again, like, yeah, I guess she was definitely blindsided because she had no idea they were calling for her to resign. But even in that moment, she still wouldn't say the word Palestinian or, like, any support for them, which was, you know, that was pretty wild to see. And then there was a whole fight that happened between administrators. And so I'm just sitting there and I'm like, is this what these faculty council meetings are always like? Like, I need to start sitting in on these all the time so I could get the school's tea, honestly, because this is the people running our school. Like, what? It was just wild. So, I mean, again, like, and then I went, and this hasn't really come out yet, so I can't speak too much on it, but I went to another faculty council meeting for this November because it only happens like once a month. And again, it was like the same thing of people going back and forth and like arguing about it, like, you know, topics of like belonging and stuff like that. But it's like, how can you have like a sense of belonging when there is like a group of students here who feel like they do not belong, you know?
And you're targeting them. Like, they were literally blocking SJP's actions for a while after October 12th because they thought it was dangerous for them to hold events.
Can I read the email? I
Yeah,
have
go
the
ahead.
email
Go
right here.
ahead.
Okay. Here is the email from President Michelle Anderson. As CUNY Chancellor Felix V. Matos Rodriguez stated, we wanted to be clear that we don't condone the activities of any internal organizations that are sponsoring rallies to celebrate or support Hamas's cowardly actions. Such efforts do not in any way represent the university and its campuses. On Monday, I issued a statement. We mourn innocent lives lost across the region and the suffering that so many are now experiencing as civilians will bear the brunt of the violence. Our hearts go out particularly to those on our campus whose families and friends are in danger. No student will be penalized for making a decision not to come to campus on Thursday, October 12th, and we urge faculty to make appropriate academic accommodations for those students. Students may access support services on our personal counseling webpage and on the CUNY Mental Health Services webpage. Faculty and staff seeking alternative accommodations should speak with their supervisors.
Yeah, lots to unpack there.
Actually, I think that second part came from the film department specifically, but everything in quotes appears from Michelle Anderson.
Yeah, and like as I was saying before, her basically flat out saying that SJP supports Hamas is absolutely insane. Because, come on.
No,
and
all of that came from her. Go ahead.
right.
I'm sorry. I was just
No,
making sure.
No, honestly, when I read it, even though I shouldn't be surprised, I was surprised.
No, I was surprised.
Because why are you
I was
basically
surprised
saying
to
that
do
they
that.
support them?
Everybody on campus got that email. Like, that wasn't like a secret. That wasn't, she sent it to a few students or like, because not everybody knows about the town hall meeting and that reaction, but everybody got this email. And sometimes a lot of people say that they don't get some of the emails she sent. I don't know anybody who didn't get this email.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's pretty wild, honestly. Like, and again, like, looking in this email, doesn't use the word Gaza, just people in the region very vague. Very vague. That's what I've noticed
That's
with all of
extremely
this is very vague and like broad kind of umbrella terms. So, and then what I've had to do in my coverage is to go back and like ask these people like, who are you referring to exactly? And it's just
Vague, more vague.
yeah, it's just a little fishy, honestly.
Do you
Little
want to talk
fishy.
about like reaching out to basically
God.
her PR team and like
Yo, yo, these people do not want to talk. It's insane. So the way like talking to administrators kind of works is that we have to reach out to their sort of like media kind of outreach person who's it's been switching. It's been Leroy Ludwig, and then it's been God, what's his
Rich Pierre.
Yeah. But then everything that they've been doing is just like all they've done is like reshare the emails. They're not actually going out and getting quotes from like administrators or even the president to get quotes from them.
Wait,
like we've
I have
asked.
another email to read. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't read this one or all of it, but I'm just reading some of the language. The horror of the Israeli hostages. Were there not Palestinian
No,
hostages?
there are thousands,
Oh,
probably. Yeah.
okay.
I mean,
Just making sure.
they've been prisoners for years too, but of course that isn't being discussed.
At all. This is the first, by the way, this is an email from Wednesday, October 25th from the Chancellor. And this is the first mention of Gaza that entire month. And since then, I don't see any mention of it. But also the deepening humanitarian crisis in Gaza, the Hamas terror attack, and the horror of Israeli hostages. That is all one sentence in this really nasty email.
Wait, when was this email sent?
October 25th.
Oh wow.
About increased safety, more public safety offers.
Wow. I mean, also, I just want to say, as a Palestinian myself, seeing these type of emails from my college's president is honestly unsettling. And that doesn't make me want to be proud of being on the Brooklyn College campus, being a Brooklyn College student, honestly.
I kind of second that, honestly. Like I got the you know, Kith, when they like released that like exclusive like Brooklyn College line, like I had bought a sweatshirt from that, but now I don't wear that. Like
Right. Right.
I don't think you can.
You're kind of real for that.
oh
Just
my
a
god,
teeny
I'm
bit.
so sorry. I'm like I swear like a sailor. That is so my bad. Oh
No,
I
no.
hope we can blur that
We're
out.
passionate. It's okay. Just
Oh my god,
don't
blur
do
that
it
out.
again.
Just blur that out.
7-second delay, y'all. 7-second delay.
Oh my god. So sorry.
No, but this whole email, like, I'm reading it. It says I read it, but I didn't. I probably stopped really quickly. It's just so much. If you see something, say something. We have to protect the Jewish and Muslim students, but notify school safety of any suspicious activity like rallies, like.
That's crazy.
Even public safety is hard to reach out to. Like you can't even email them. You have to like
You
call
have to
them.
find one of those phones in the hallway. I
Yeah.
had to run down the hallway looking for a phone to get them to unlock the radio station the other day.
Wow.
Yeah, you have to like set up a time.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, you have to set up an appointment with him, and then directors are like, again, they don't really want to like talk to you, so you have to give them the questions beforehand, which is like, what's the point? It's very manufactured. Yeah, very manufactured. So, I don't know. Do we-
Miad anymore or Manny?
I just wanted to say that the counselor of CUNY, Felix V. Matos Rodriguez, I think he's a coward, not only because he's Puerto Rican. He's a Puerto Rican man, and you're saying that you condemn Hamas, this, that, and the third.
Wait. Manny's saying this as an opinion.
Yeah,
We are
as an
not
opinion. This
directly
is an
reaching
opinion.
out.
This isn't the beliefs of the news station. So
This
if
is
anything
an opinion
happens,
I agree with, though. But
if
Right.
anything happens, do not hold anyone accountable here, just
this
me.
has nothing to do
But
with
I
WBCR.
think him being a Puerto Rican man and saying something like that is the most coward thing ever. Mainly if you look at the history of Puerto Rico and how many Puerto Rican activists in the past have called for independence and then they get murdered by the U.S. government.
The colonization of Puerto Rico.
Exactly how Puerto Rico's multiple protests of trying to be free and you're gonna sit there and stand with an apartheid state as a Puerto Rican man. You're a loser and you're a coward.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah.
Kate, did you have something you wanted to add really quickly before we go on to more over just the media itself and how they've been covering conflict?
Yeah, I think we're good to like segue into that. Yeah, just to talk about like the broader sort of media landscape that we're facing right now. Because again, like I mean, a lot of what has been going on, there's been a focus on like Western media like in general because it is so biased. It's kind of wild, and we gotta take everything that has been covered and actually like reanalyze it and really question it, which I mean it's pretty wild. I don't know if you want to like add anything.
Yeah, I mean, definitely something that strikes out to me right away is just me remembering even Israeli newspapers backtracking and saying, actually, babies' heads weren't beheaded. There is actually no evidence for that. Even though Joe Biden himself
I was about to
was
say,
standing there,
our president.
Yeah, looking like an idiot.
Joseph Biden, the
spreading
46,
misinformation, no evidence. And if Israeli newspapers are literally going back on their word, that just says so much. And Joe Biden will believe anything that comes out of Netanyahu's hands. And it's disgusting.
Well, it's even like the very language itself when covering this, like Palestinians die, but they're not killed.
Right.
Israelis
Active versus passive
Right.
voice.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
right.
isn't that like,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
wasn't that like, it was Israeli children and Palestinian people under
18.
18.
Yeah. You can't even actually say the word that they're children because it really just dehumanizes them. And we were even talking about in one of my media classes the fact that the title of a lot of this is like, at first it was Israel Palestine, and they're not even saying like Israel Hamas. They're just equating like all of Palestine as being like Hamas, and they weren't even like actually, again, going back to that whole vagueness, not really specifying sort of element. And I mean, that's just not good coverage. That's just like, again, opinion.
Right.
But yeah. And, even when, like, tying this back into, like, obviously this is a very meta conversation about this, but when we go to these protests that are happening on the Brooklyn College campus, a lot of the chants are, media, you can't hide, you're supporting genocide. And, I'm standing there behind the barricade, and I'm just like, it was the weirdest feeling ever. It was so weird to just stand there, and I was like, oh, my God, how can you just stand there as the media and listen to that and not actually like really feel what they're saying?
Yeah. And I also want to shout out, the Palestinian journalists who have been on the field since the very beginning, recording every single thing, putting their lives at risk, and hundreds have already died. But that isn't being discussed in the media. Like, come on.
If it
It's
wasn't for
also
social
a war
media.
crime. Sorry.
Right.
It's literally a war
Yeah.
crime to
But
kill journalists.
Even-
But they keep getting away with it and getting away with it and getting away with it. And nobody holds Israel accountable.
But we're even surprised. I feel like
No.
this low-key started with Kissinger. Kissinger was the one who started with like getting journalists to not report the actual facts so they could get a scoop. And everything we've seen from the point Kissinger was, he wasn't even in office. He wasn't even in office. But from the point Kissinger was working with whoever he was working with, whether it was Bush, whether it was Nixon, we've just seen effect. Kissinger was the first one, him and Nixon, to do an attack on another country without getting congressional approval. And since that point, we've seen how many times has the U.S. government attacked a country without congressional approval?
Do you know how far apart Bush and Nixon's presidencies are?
Exactly.
That's not insane.
Or even I think we always just have to remember that Western media is the propaganda arm for the U.S. government, and the U.S. government only cares about one thing: moving forward U.S. policy. So if that means bombing an entire region and displacing an ethnic group, they don't care. Like, Israel is a military, this is my opinion, is a military base for the U.S. government. That is all it is. It is a way for the U.S. government to get information and do espionage in the Middle East without putting their own bodies there. They provide the resources to Israel. It is a testing ground for them. This is my opinion. This does not represent the views of WBCR.
Represent my views.
Do you want to say? Do you want to introduce yourself? You just kind of came on here. No introduction.
Yeah.
This is TS, guys.
My name is T.S. Richards. I am a Navy veteran. All right, so
It's radicalized her.
yes, it has definitely
Yeah.
radicalized me. I think the one thing that will always, I think, upset me about the conflict is that like the media is pushing this concept that Zionism equals anti-Semitism when literally a large swath of Americans who support Israel support it for genocidal reasons.
Right.
They're trying to, what is it, promote a prophecy that ends with literally like the destruction of Israel.
Exactly.
So you're calling us anti-Semites because we want people to be able to coexist, Muslims and Jews to be able to coexist in one country. That country is Palestine, where everybody has equal rights. Not an apartheid state where literally only white Jewish people have rights. There are Ethiopian Jews, there are Palestinian Jews. Everyone wants to say, oh, this isn't a religious conflict, this is ethnic displacement because Israel is also bombing Palestinian Christians.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with religion. This has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with, oh, they attacked us first. This literally has to do with they want the land. They want access to the resources. And honestly, they're being supported by a group of people that will backstab them in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and I mean, on the topic of like identities, a lot of the coverage, like for example, like the New York Times, they've chosen writers where it was like uncovered that they had like sons in the IDF and stuff like that. So when we're
That gasp.
so for example, like the reason why I was chosen to like write about all of this for Brooklyn College is because I have no ties whatsoever to either side, you know, and there's so many in the Western media where, you know, it may not at first be evident that they have these ties, but then you discover later that they do, and it's like, well, there goes your coverage being like unbiased, like, you know?
Yeah, and I also want to add on that because I'm the editor-in-chief of the paper. I'm also Palestinian, and I took the liberty of, you know, removing myself from even like touching these articles, even though I really want to write them, and giving to someone who isn't involved with either side to avoid bias. And the fact that, you know, a big corporation like the New York Times can't take that same liberty is absolutely insane. You know, I'm a student aspiring journalist, and, you know,
You are a student journalist, period.
Yeah.
You're published.
I
You're
just-
a student
Yeah,
journalist.
it's also a lack of diversity into those rooms because I've found that like
Yep.
as I talk to more of like my family and friends about the context of it, they don't know any Palestinians. They don't. And I'm like sitting here talking to them. I'm like, I have friends. I have like people I know who've like, they have generations and bloodlines who've been wiped out. I have like, my pops for the longest time was like undocumented. Last time he saw his father was like right before he came to this country, and he never got to go back home and see his father. So like, I see that, and I see what Palestinians go through, and seeing my dad like cry when his father died. He couldn't go back to the funeral. He couldn't get a chance to see his dad. And knowing that like I have Palestinian friends who experienced that on a daily, there is no way in the world I could be okay with what's going on. They more like diversity and inclusion is important. Like
right.
you don't know, if you don't know someone who's Palestinian, you need to go meet somebody who's Palestinian.
Right.
Sit there, talk to them, talk about what their families experienced, talk about their history. If you know the history, stop doing these little chants in your head, because all those people go, oh, you're being anti-Semitic. That is a wall that you are mentally putting up to block the
Exactly.
facts and block the truth. Sit down, hear people out, and talk. And that goes for regular folks. That even goes for the media. Like, Piers Morgan is annoying, but I am at least happy that he is bringing on Palestinian voices and giving them a chance to speak.
Right.
More media needs to do that.
Yeah. I think that's also kind of what we've had as a goal in the background throughout all of this coverage at Brooklyn College is like, you know, Palestinians right now are voiceless, so it's really just about giving a voice to the voiceless and highlighting what they're talking about, you know.
I was gonna say, like Kate earlier, you had said like you felt like in your opinion they weren't giving good coverage. I don't feel like that's necessarily an opinion because we are all trained to be unbiased as journalists. That's not an opinion to say it's not good coverage. That's a fact. If your coverage is leaning more toward one way than another, you shouldn't be a journalist. They're not being fair to the Palestinians. They're being more fair to the Israeli people. They're calling for more sympathy for them than the Palestinians. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have your own personal opinions, but when you're in the media, you're not supposed to be spreading your propaganda
Right.
the way that we've been seeing the New York Times, the Washington Post, or any of them do.
And I also want to touch upon the recent approval of anti-Zionism being called anti-Semitism, because once again, not surprised.
We're gonna call them Zionist
but-
extremists from now on.
Right.
Zionist extremists.
because that's just spreading even more misinformation. Like, it's so deep rooted in our system that honestly sometimes I do feel a little bit helpless. Like, how am I supposed to help, my people? Because I hear from my family back home, they're telling me, oh yeah, thank God we're okay, we're safe, but we're hearing the airstrikes, we're seeing the airstrikes. There's more IDF presence on the streets of the West Bank where they're not supposed to be in the first place. My grandmother can't even leave her house to go to the mosque right next door because the IDF soldiers will tell her to go back home. And I'm supposed to stay silent. Like, for the sake of the media and the newspaper, I will remove myself. But as a Palestinian myself, I can't continue to stay silent on my own platforms. So I think that was one of my worries was, receiving backlash from, Zionist students on campus saying, oh, well, your editor-in-chief is Palestinian. Are you unbiased like you say you are? And so when I post on my personal platforms, I want that to be noted that is removed from the Vanguard itself because, Kate and I have taken every precaution to ensure that there are no biases in what we write. We write what is happening on campus and around the world.
Well, even and also building on that, anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. I think like the pure irony behind that is that like the U.S. government basically just called one of the largest sects of like Jewish people anti-Semites because Orthodox Jews don't believe that like Israel should be a thing. Like you literally just call the largest sect of Jews in this country and in New York City anti-Semites. So is that not backwards?
Exactly.
Is that not backwards?
Yeah. I just want to say that Serene is my literal hero. Because can you imagine going through like your school semester and everything, knowing your people back home are
Your
literally
last
going
school
through.
semester. Serene
Yeah.
is graduating.
Serene
and
is a I'm trying not to swear, but she is a bad blank.
She's a badass. In 14 days,
Oh my
Serena's
God.
graduating.
I
yes,
love you guys.
slay. Seriously, you are like my inspiration, and you're probably the strongest person I know. Period.
Aww,
like,
you're making me emotional.
Your liberation is tied with all of our liberation.
It sure
Period.
is.
None
I
of
love
us
you
are
guys.
free
I
until
love
all
you
of us
guys.
are free.
I have a message
Period.
for people who look like me and don't feel like Palestinian liberation is not tied to black liberation, to all liberation.
Read Malcolm X.
Literally,
Read Malcolm X.
Palestinian people
Huey P. Newton.
have always supported the liberation of black people. Always. Supported Nelson Mandela. Welcome Malcolm X with open arms. So if you are black and feel like
Black Panthers too.
everybody else doesn't care about our struggle, that has never been true about Palestinians. I've always felt strong about Palestinians, and I always will. Before I even knew Serene, I felt that way. So
even the Irish, I'm like
Oh,
Ireland.
yeah, the best Westerners ever. The best Westerners ever.
No, but
you
it's
the Irish, man.
Yeah.
How they get down?
Yo, because Ireland been out here, like, was one of the first European countries to be like, yo, because the
Right.
British did the same, like, my country with Northern Ireland. Oh my God, I keep swearing. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Sailor
God.
over
I'm
here is
so
doing a
sorry.
great job.
You
without
cannot
cussing.
have me on here again because I will just keep accidentally swearing.
way better than me. Because
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
My mouth? Crazy.
I need every, like, regardless of whether or not, because I hear people say all the time, oh, you're gay. They throw you off a rooftop. One, you're incorrect. Two, gay people are still getting attacked here in America.
There's
No
there's-
facts. I can tell
there's
you.
hundreds of Palestinian queer people. Don't
But
tell me
yeah,
that you
right.
don't
even
think that
that.
just because it's illegal somewhere that there aren't still people living that truth.
I always look at it like this. One of the reasons why, like, off rip, without a shadow of a doubt, I was on the Palestinian side is because if they can do it to one group, they can do it to another group. The whole
They
world is
will.
watching.
Exactly.
If the West sees they can get away, that just by ignoring it, that Israel can get away with what they're doing, what's to say the U.S. isn't going to do it to me as a black person? They already bombed black neighborhoods. None of us are free until all of us are free. And also, I look at it as one side wants to coexist peacefully in one country together, and the other side wants to eradicate them completely. Whose side would I be on?
Right.
Come on.
And another thing, the IDF and the NYPD literally have exchange
God.
programs. So they literally teach them the tactics that they use on Palestinians. NYPD is using on people here. Like,
Can we
The- when-
mention
the-
when they were on campus? They had
NYPD was on
students
campus.
infiltrating
Oh, I
our
could go
campus.
off about
Or
this. I
yeah,
could go
even then
off.
with like IDF,
Ooh.
like seeing the fact, like that politician who showed up to the House floor in his IDF uniform. So
oh my God.
served in the military, right? 6 years. Most of us, I don't really know of anybody who's gotten to maintain dual citizenship and keep a security clearance. I had to give up my dual citizenship. I know a lot of people in the military who had to give up their dual citizenships to maintain their military, like their security clearance.
Mia,
So
say that
how-
into the mic.
So how can we have?
Sorry, I didn't want to cut off TS, but I was explaining it to Manny, who's sitting right next to me.
For other people who don't know.
For the people that don't know the history of this campus, from 2012 to 2015, the NYPD infiltrated Muslim organizations on this campus, and not a single time, the past president actually resigned over that because they never properly dealt with it. And then when Michelle Alexander came, guess what she did?
Invited them on campus.
No, not a single attempt was made to like renounce that, to say, oh, that was bad. And do you want to know why?
Because her
said-
husband is Muslim?
No, she said, it already happened. Why am I going to address it?
Oh, she said that?
To
They let that happen.
That is insane. And to all of my service members who had to give up their dual citizenship to countries that they loved, I apologize. You should be very, very upset that he gets to do that, and you put your life on the line every single day. You miss birthdays, you miss Thanksgivings, you miss you miss graduations and funerals, and a connection to the place that you were born and raised. Well, he gets to maintain that for what? And also, they're sending $100 billion, so they can't afford free healthcare. They can't afford free college. Don't let them tell you we cannot afford it. Do not let them. We can afford it.
about it.
Everybody can be housed. Everybody can have food. Everybody can have healthcare. All of us could be in school for free. They can afford it. They can afford it. We can afford it. Don't let them tell you otherwise. And the Pentagon failed a $3 trillion audit.
Okay, TS.
They lost $3 trillion worth of stuff.
Final thoughts, everybody. Final thoughts.
Something that's interesting is that Spain recognized Palestine as like an official country, which like that took me by surprise because you look at the history of Spain, how they colonized, most of South America and the Caribbean.
Some people want to right their wrongs.
Yeah,
Some.
that's
Some, not all.
not all.
But some.
And going back to your point on how you were saying like people who aren't Palestinian to read, Malcolm X and Huey P. I also think they should look at Latino political leaders like Che Guevara. He was one of the Che and Fidel Castro. They were very big on liberation. They went to Africa to help countries fight for their liberation.
Don't read Western propaganda on them. Actually,
Literally,
read
don't.
their books.
Like, make your own opinion on them from what they're written. I remember I bought his autobiography. I want to read it. Many people in the world have fought back from occupation, and 10 times out of 10, they will always be labeled as the villains, and that's just really, really sad.
Also, I think the last one I'll say, please stop saying that Hamas represents all Palestinians. Half of them weren't even alive during the last election.
Over 50% of Gaza is children, so
They weren't voting in 2006.
Right.
And also Netanyahu funded Hamas.
Yep.
He funded Hamas. He funded it right. He took a page out of the U.S. government and Henry Kissinger's book and funded a right-wing group to destabilize. Well, what was it they were trying to? What was the organization that wasn't it a leftist organization that was also competing against them, running against them at the time?
I think so, yeah.
They took a page out of the U.S. playbook. Destabilize people with far-right ideologues. And also remember, it's not just about Hamas, because Hamas isn't in the West Bank.
I would say for just some final words, I know that so many feel like so hopeless right now, like about, especially like the Palestinian journalists who are over there and just the Palestinian people in general. But I'm hoping through at least our small corner of the world here at Brooklyn College, we can try and provide some of that hope and some of that faith in the media once again, because otherwise, if we don't keep trying, then what is the point of the media?
Right. Like, just because Brooklyn College administration isn't addressing or isn't acknowledging their students' voices, that doesn't mean the Vanguard isn't going to do that. Even though the administration probably, has beef with us, we don't care. That's what we're here for. If we're making them mad, then we're doing something right as journalists.
Period.
I want to wrap up with 2 final thoughts. First of all, on losing hope, we are so privileged to even think of losing hope. How dare we lose hope as Americans, as people who get to go to bed, with full stomachs, who get to see our relatives, call our relatives, who don't hear airstrikes every single night. And in that same note, you're not super cool, super mysterious, super fun because you haven't reposted anything on your Instagrams. If you think that that's not actually doing anything, you're lying. The Palestinian journalists who have survived and are continuing to survive have said that that is helpful. You're spreading the word. It's getting reposts. It's getting views, because that is pretty much what Instagram has been reduced to. How much of the things that you're reposting is getting views? How much of it is actually reaching people? Please continue to repost those things, even if you feel like some people are tired. Let them get tired. They're lame. They're losers. These people need our help. And even if you're not a journalist, you are just so privileged, whether you think you are or not, to have water, to have food, to have your family, to be able to read, to be able to wake up the next day and be able to do anything, go outside and not have to fear for your life.
Right.
Serene's grandma can't go pray. Seriously? And you feel like, oh, if I post this one thing, it's going to ruin my little persona. Nobody cares about your Brent Fayez listening persona. please stick up for the Palestinian people.
Don't pull a 2020 black square on Instagram solidarity post.
Oh my God.
Don't pull that performative activism, please.
BB Milikowski from New Jersey, also known as Benjamin Netanyahu, but we're going to call you by your first name.
That's crazy.
Benjamin Milikowski from New Jersey. From New Jersey. And even we'll go Gal Greenstein, right? The world sees what you guys are doing. The world sees what you guys are saying. The world sees how you guys feel. And we're not rocking with it.
All right.
You're not rocking with it.
And with that, we will be closing out DNA Entertainment News for the semester with a playlist. Yes,
Whoa.
a playlist of Palestinian music found by our very own Serene.
On Spotify.
Yeah, on Spotify.
It's not mine.
But I did just want to say that it's been a great semester despite everything that we have witnessed. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for coming, Serene, Kate.
Thank you for having us.
Manny,
thank
Mia,
you.
Kaylin, T.S. Thank you for coming.
You guys
I
are always welcome.
appreciate it.
Always
Love
welcome.
y'all.
Always. And with that, that is a wrap on DNA Entertainment News for the semester. See you all next semester.
Woo!